Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blog on Everything, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to what is going to be a not so full length podcast episode. That's right. If you've already seen the timeline, like it's this as far as how long this is going to last, it's not like as long as most of the typical episodes for the podcasts are, and there is a reason for that. Those of you with keen ears have probably already picked up on it. And the reason why is you can probably hear it in my voice. If not, then you're watching and you could probably see just how I'm decked out in all of this warm apparel, warm gear, so to say. I have been fighting a cold. That is a reason why this episode did not drop yesterday when it was supposed to, at least when I thought that I would be able to. So that was the schedule I was working with in my head. Because really, there's a lot that's been happening and there's a lot that I wanted to talk about. But apparently, I guess my health doesn't want me talking too much about all of that. So, in the meantime, I don't know, maybe I'll try and do some voice acting auditioning for like Kratos with a code. Yeah, excuse me for that. Anywho, what's going to be the major topic here? I'm just going to have to focus on what's really popping right now, which is the situation with Xavi, with Laporta, with Hansi Flick. Okay, because between the post-match interview against Almeria, you remember that match? Barca won 2-0 away from home. A couple of goals from Fermin Lopez. Yeah, well, between that game and Barcelona's next game, which was at Montjuic, the final home game of the season versus Rayo, it just so happened that Xavi Hernandez managed to upset Joan Laporta or anger Joan Laporta or annoy. I don't know which word to use, to be honest. But he managed to push him to the point whereby Laporta, who the entire time that Xavi wanted to go was the biggest, like advocate for Xavi to stay. He was the guy who was constantly putting Xavi in situations where he had to answer whether he wanted to stay or to go. And now all of a sudden he apparently wants nothing further to do with Xavi at Barcelona, and he's adamant Xavi cannot continue. Which, I mean, if Xavi would have spoken to me before he made his decision, on whether or not he should stay, I would have told him that he probably shouldn't stay just simply because there's no way it was going to end well between him and Laporta, being that, the kind of character we are apparently told Laporta has, people like him, you don't exactly think that they enjoy being put in a position where they have to beg somebody else to, like stay on as a manager. Excuse me, code's taking over again. People like Laporta, you would assume, do not like being put in that kind of position where they're, like going to be begging somebody, asking them to stay, that kind of stuff. Especially a manager who they feel like they did a huge favor and they put him on, you know what I'm saying? Which you could argue is kind of the situation Xavi was or is in at Barcelona. But for what it's worth, I see absolutely nothing wrong with what Xavi actually said. And anybody who understands exactly what Xavi said that was so infuriating for Laporta, please go ahead and share it in the comments, because as far as I could tell, Xavi just said what everybody already knew, which is that Barcelona's financial situation isn't exactly the best. They can't compete to make signings. But, apparently that upset Laporta, and I guess it's why we're seeing so many, reports coming in from weird sources, to put it that way, names which we've never seen before being, corroborated in the stories by different sources, and talking about, Barcelona's finances are way better than they were last season, and they're so close to returning to the 1-1 and blah, 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 and all of that stuff. And really, at the end of the day, for me, I guess none of that really matters, because the bottom line really is that whether or not Barca's finances are good or bad, I kind of thought that Xavi and Laporta would end on a bit of a sour note, just owing to the fact that Xavi wanted to go and Laporta begged him to stay, and he ended up staying. Just based off of that, I just had this weird feeling like, nah, this isn't going to end well for our guy Xavi here. And well, saying that it's not ending well is a bit of an understatement, because apparently Xavi right now is as much in the loop as the rest of us are as fans. That's right. Laporta is making all these moves, seeing Deco and Boyan. Yeah, don't even ask me how they got these jobs. But we're seeing Deco and Boyan going to meet with Hansi Flick to have those discussions, probably to replace Xavi. And, well, it's just like, apparently Xavi is finding all of that out at the same time as us, the fans. That's cold. Like, even for whatever wrong that Laporta feels Xavi may have done to him, considering the fact that Xavi stepped in when this club was in one of the biggest crises it's ever had. Literally, this team was looking like it would not be able to play Champions League group stage football, right? But Xavi came in, secured Champions League football. Then the next season went on and won La Liga. And then, this season almost had a very respectable run to the Champions League semifinals. So, despite all of what he's been able to do with really a limited budget and, having to have players like Lewandowski and Cancelo and João Felix, it felt like forced on him at moments, Oriol Romeo as well. Despite all of that, he was still able to do what was quite honestly an admirable job. Okay, not many managers can say they won a league title in their first full season, or even in their first 2 full seasons of managing. Not many can say they managed to win a league title, but Xavi did that. So, he's of course not going to get much of a respectable send-off if things continue the way that they are. Like we've said, he's already out of the loop, and Laporta is already making mad moves behind the scenes. And of course, the man who is back in the headlines now for Barcelona, who is back on just about every reporter's tongue, is Hansi Flick. And it's looking like right now, really, it's just a matter of when he's going to be announced as Barcelona's next coach, which, I don't know, you at least hope that Laporta will have the decency of having Xavi end the season before such announcements are made. But nevertheless, the fact that he's put Xavi in this situation where he's going to go into his final press conference of the season, and all the questions he's going to have to tackle have to do with Hansi Flick, have to do with him getting the boot, him getting sacked, which, again, like I said, it's very cold from Laporta. And honestly speaking, it's probably the beginning of the end as well, I feel, for his second tenure, because we did see how the crowd at Montjuic in that match against Rayo, they were chanting, very audibly, Xavi, yes, Laporta, no. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, it's not Xavi in, Laporta out, but, it's not a very far, it's not much of a stretch, okay, to assume that people who are saying Laporta no could soon be saying Laporta out, right? It's not so out there, which is probably why I guess he's trying to go with a Hansi Flick maybe for next season, because he really does need next season to be a strong campaign for Barca if he's going to be re-elected, okay? And really, he's going to want to be re-elected because he's going to want the new camp now to be opened under his tenure, right? It's not going to be proper if somebody else comes in and, 6 months or 8 months into the job, they're unveiling a brand spanking new stadium. Probably doesn't want that. So that's why he's going with Hansi Flick, in my opinion. And look, if you really want a full breakdown of, Hansi Flick and what I think about him being the next manager for FC Barcelona, then, well, you're in luck, because there's a video I already did, so it's either up there or it's like up here. it's on one of these two. I put it up somewhere on there, those little notification thingamajigs that flash across the screen. And you can go ahead and check that one out. Obviously, I did also talk about Thomas Tuchel and Julian Nagelsmann in that video as well. But at this moment in time, Nagelsmann is unavailable, like Davido. And, Tuchel, I would say, is more like unapproachable. Yeah, I don't think Laporta was much of a fan of him anyway, but he was definitely a fan of Hansi Flick. We did hear him, desiring a Hansi Flick or a Julian Nagelsmann for so long before, Xavi was eventually hired. So yeah, I guess that's the direction Barcelona is going into. And obviously, there are things to look forward to there. If it goes right, it's not like Hansi Flick is the worst appointment. I feel like Rafa Marquez probably would have been the worst appointment Barca can make probably in this time, which surprisingly, his name was the second one on the list, which, I don't know who these people are making these lists. But then again, Laporta and his people, there's a lot of nepotism going on at the club. Let's not even pretend, okay? When you have people like Alemany and Jordi Cruyff leaving, people who are renowned really for how they are able to run a club, how they're able to do all these, super tightly run projects, sporting projects for the teams or for the clubs that they work for. And, you're kicking out somebody like that with a resume like Alemany and you're replacing him with Deco. Well, you're only going to get so much. Yeah, you get what you paid for at the end of the day. And, if Deco is being assisted by Bojan Krkic, who, somebody tell me, what experience exactly does Bojan have in as far as football administration is concerned? I'm willing to guess it's zero. But hey, it is what it is. That's who is there at the moment. That's who went to meet Hansi Flick. And let's see how all of this plays out, because we do know that Barca actually are not the only club interested in Flick at the moment. Chelsea are as well, because, like they do every season now, Chelsea have sacked their manager. Just par for the course, just the usual for them. So yeah, they've sacked their manager and they're in the market looking for a new one. And Hansi Flick is a name that's pumped up for them as well. So, he's a man who right now is in a bit of demand. And hopefully Deco and Bojan don't let somebody else pip them to Flick the same way that they did with Claudio Echeverri and Ader Güler. Remember those signings? Guess who screwed them up? That's right. It was Deco and Bojan. Because at the end of the day, what experience these guys have in those kinds of roles? They're learning on the job. Now, hopefully, they can work well with Hansi Flick, because one thing which I feel like somebody like Flick is not going to entertain really is people in positions like Deco's and like Bojan's who have no idea what they're actually supposed to be doing, or who are not doing a good job of what they're supposed to be doing. So, all the best in that front. We'll wait to see what happens. I think I've just about pushed myself to the limits of what I can manage in this current state of mind, with my voice being how it is, with the cold that I'm fighting off. So I thank you all for tuning in. And if this was your first time, please do hit that subscribe button, do hit that like button. I do upload regularly, okay? I do match reviews. I know the season's coming to an end, and we'll figure it out, okay? I have other kinds of content that I put out here, all right? Go ahead and check out the playlist section of this channel. You see a lot of interesting stuff there, including the curious cases, which are, honestly speaking, my favorite of all the content that I put out on this platform, because, I usually get to at least just ramble for as long as I want to, but not just ramble like I would in a podcast, but I ramble with facts. I do so backed by facts. And apologies for, I kept on looking in this direction when I should have been looking at the camera, which is over here. So, amateur mistakes. Hey, it's amateur hour. I'm sick. All right. Let it go. Let me get away with it just this one time. All right. Otherwise, I thank you for tuning in to have a great day and Forza Barca.